Hi guys, and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. This is the Geonworks Venom 60HE, and it is said to be the fastest Hall effect keyboard in terms of latency, beating even the Wooting 80HE and the InKy boards. It is boasting 8000 Hz polling rate, and they advertise it to be capable of 14,000 per key scan rate, but the catch here is that you have to build one yourself, so let's build one. The parts for the keyboard have been pretty much only accessible to the Asian community, but through Taobao and Taobao shopping agents, the parts are pretty easy to purchase. There was also a group buy of Geonworks international website a few weeks ago, so it is becoming more widely available, which is nice to see as well. On Superbuy, you just paste the Taobao link or search for the specific part you want to buy, select the correct variant and pay for the products upfront. Then the Superbuy agent buys it for you and the parts get shipped to their own warehouse. After the parts arrive at the warehouse, you can also check if they are indeed the correct parts via the pictures they take for you. If they indeed are correct, you just select them and choose the shipping options. I went with the easy route and selected their packing specialist service that costs some extra but leaves less room for user errors, and we potentially even save some money in shipping charges. After the agent has finished packing, you can accept their suggested shipping option that is based on your selected preference, and then you pay for shipping as well. Depending on the shipping option you choose, the package arrives sooner or later. Mine took around 2 weeks to arrive with the balanced shipping option. The parts you need for the build are the PCB, switch plate, a case, stabilizers, switches, and also some additional foam if you want to alter the sound profile of the keyboard. The PCB costs around $60 to $70, and you can choose a 6.25U spacebar or a 7U spacebar version, so choose the one that suits your preference. Plates vary from $8 to $12 depending on the material. When choosing the plate, you need to know if you are going with plate mounted stabilizer or PCB mounted, since those are not interchangeable, and I will always recommend PCB mounted since with them it is easier to get a nice stabilizer tuning and they are less prone to rattling. It is however possible to get a cool stabilizer experience with plate mount also, like we see on the Keycaps HM80. It just takes a bit more work. You can also get some additional foam that runs pretty cheap from the store that sells the plates, around $5 for a full kit. Switches you can also choose yourself, but the Geonworks RAW switches are definitely something I can recommend, and they are pretty cheap, around $30 for a pack of 70, and you don't need to loop this at all. The board is compatible with a lot of other switches like the Gator and Jade Pros, so if you happen to have those laying around, you can use those as well. The case choice is also up to you. I chose the Optimum Wooting collab case with the friction fit mounting, but most of the GH60 tray mount case fit, so Tofu and Tofu Redux are safe choices, for example, and the Holy 60 has been another very popular one recently. The stabs are also up to you. I wanted to try out the Type Plus stabs, which cost around $15, and then some lube for them is always recommended. On top of these, you also need some keycaps, and I got some Domikey X InKy Silent C triple shot keycaps waiting for this build. So in total, the keyboard will cost around $130 plus the cost of the case, keycaps and shipping, which honestly is not bad for a top tier performance custom keyboard. When you have the parts, it is time to start building. The first step is the most time consuming one, and it is lubing and assembling the stabilizers. When you are first handling the PCB, you can also notice a beautiful thing. There is no RGB on the board. I really hope more keyboard manufacturers take this approach as well and skip the ugly gamer glow from keyboards as well. It is really unnecessary. The Type Plus stabs are somewhat different to what I'm used to, so the first one took a bit of training to get right. I also didn't know what the stabilizer shims were and thought installing those are necessary, but apparently they are not with this PCB thickness. You live and learn, I guess. But they don't seem to hurt the performance, so it's all good here. The friction fit silicone is sadly not a straight fit to the Venom PCB, and you need to do a tiny bit of cutting around the spacebar and on one particular spot, but cutting these will not hurt the fitment to the case at all. It can have a small effect on the spacebar sound, but most likely the effect will be rather minor. Then I recommend you to install the switches to the plate before you screw it into the PCB, but either way works. I just found this way to be easier to put the switches in. Then after that is done, we will just screw the sandwich together, and now you can also do some tape modding to the backside of the PCB if you want. The Optimum Tech Wooting collab case is honestly a very nice looking case, and I really dig the rounded corners and the thicker bezels around the case. The mirror part here is also very stunning looking. It is just a very big fingerprint magnet, but the case comes with the case foam that we will use here as well, and installing the case with the friction fit is very easy. You just align the case properly and press down slowly so the USB port aligns with the opening. If you need to remove the PCB from the case at some point, I suggest you to remove the top feet to reveal the two holes and carefully press through them with two plastic sticks or something. Do not use anything metal, since that can damage the PCB, but luckily you don't have to fix anything and you can just now install the keycaps, and at that you are done with the build. Here is a quick sound test of the finished build. Then you will just have to head to the web driver, where you should update the firmware to the latest stable one, select the correct switches and go to the debug page and press calibrate to get the correct range for the switches. And then you just set up the board the way you want. So I think this board turned out great, and the blue keycaps with the grey case just look amazing. It is not the most pleasant sounding board I have, but that was really not my main goal with this one. Instead, I just wanted to see how good the Venom 60HE is, and so far I really have no bad things to say about the performance. The board feels very responsive and the software is very user friendly in my opinion. So it is quite easy to set up everything just the way I want. Sadly, my X-Lite rig that I built doesn't recognize this board at all, so I can't show any real latest numbers, but if the measurements from other sources like iJoker hold true, it is the current fastest Hall effect keyboard out there. And it kind of makes sense, since this has quite beefy specs on the PCB, no RGB, and it is a 60% layout, so it has less keys to scan than on the Wooting 80HE, for example. For people who are not interested in building a keyboard themselves, I still recommend something from brands like Wooting, Nuffy, iQnix or Keycaps, but if you ever had an itch to build one yourself or are already an experienced builder, it is a really fun and rewarding project to do. Personally, I am very addicted and I already built a second one just because I had this Tofu Redux case, these GMK keycaps and some Jade Pro switches just laying around. But let me know if you are interested in seeing more of these keyboard build videos, and have a wonderful rest of the year. Goodbye.